What if human extinction wasn't some sudden, fiery event? What if instead it was a horrific biological split, an evolutionary fracture so extreme that it turned our very voices into a symptom of a deadly disease? Listen to me, you're looking at something you were never, ever meant to see. This is built from a heavily guarded, leaked archive. And what it reveals about our past, and honestly, potentially our very nature, is absolutely terrifying.
Right at the beginning, the archive poses this chilling question. What if humanity didn't just survive the freeze, but mutated into something that looks back at us in absolute disgust? We're analyzing forbidden records from what they document as the year 120 after convergence. Okay, we need to dive straight into this because the recorded history of human evolution hides a dark, deeply unsettling secret, and I need to walk you through exactly what this file reveals before it's gone.
Section 1. The Iron Whale Fleet, year 120. I want you to picture the terrifying imagery they describe in these files. A massive, alien-looking armada, but constructed entirely out of harvested whalebone and dark, carbonized steel. Just imagine the sheer, deafening violence of these colossal structures actually crashing through the ice, slamming violently onto the northern coast of mainland Europe.
Now, commanding those ships was what the archive calls the Askja lineage. They were a mutated branch of humanity that didn't just endure the global freeze. They completely conquered the freezing oceans. So in the year 12 after convergence, they made landfall directly into the territory of the baseline human survivors of the Ice Age, our ancestors. This was first contact. But see, it wasn't with some species from another star. It was contact with a twisted, horrific reflection of ourselves.
Section 2. The anthropological split. A biological terror. The true horror of this first contact? It wasn't actually brought on by the Askja's massive steel weapons or that intimidating fleet. The real terror stemmed from the stark, undeniable reality of their anatomy. The biological divergence between us and them was so absolute, it literally defied comprehension. To put it into perspective, the Askja lineage had evolved these heavy lipid thermal metabolisms just to survive the deep, relentless cold. And they communicated strictly using closed-lip clicks. But baseline humans? We survived the Ice Age with wide-open mouths, relying on emotional screaming and complex vocalizations. When you visually contrast the freezing, highly calculated existence of the Askja with the chaotic survival of our ancestors, it forces this horrifying realization: in this encounter, we were the ones who looked like grotesque, unevolved beasts.
Section 3. A sickness of vowels, linguistic shock.
So, when the Askja scouts first made landfall, they actually observed the mainland humans from the shadows. As they watched our ancestors speak to one another, they looked at our wide-open mouths, they saw the expelled breath of our long, warm vowels, and they reacted with absolute, unadulterated disgust.
You have to understand the Askja language to truly get why. Their communication was literally a mathematical calculation of clicks, utilizing exactly zero wasted thermal energy. They spoke with their lips completely sealed. It was just a cold, purely functional exchange of data, completely devoid of the emotional structure that defined human vocabulary. Every single sound was coldly calculated for survival.
And this brings us to a really chilling realization. The Askja didn't just misunderstand our emotional screaming. They didn't simply find us loud or primitive. No, they viewed the very act of releasing warm air from our mouths to form words as an unforgivable, lethal waste of heat in a frozen world. To them, our way of communicating was quite literally an evolutionary sickness. They looked at our speech as a fatal biological flaw.
Section 4. The thermal barter, silent trading. Because these two species shared absolutely zero common linguistic roots, one relies on strict thermal math, the other on expelled emotional warmth, this historic first contact was marked by complete and utter silence. It was a terrifying, tense standoff where words were completely useless.
Let me walk you through this survival-driven transaction they called the thermal barter. On one side, the Askja brought high-grade carbonized steel knives, technology way, way beyond the mainlanders. On the other side, the baseline humans offered dried oak wood and animal fats. It strips away all humanity, right? It just reveals a cold, desperate ledger. Advanced steel traded strictly for raw, combustible resources.
And the motive for this silent trade was simple, really: sustaining the shipboard heat pods. The Askja despised the baselines. They looked at our ancestors as a diseased, wasteful mutation of the human genome. Yet, the really deep irony here is that they desperately needed our primitive resources, that dried oak wood and animal fat. just to sustain the life-saving heat pods aboard their iron whale ships. It was this silent, totally disgust-filled dependency.
Which leaves us with a lingering, deeply unsettling question. If survival in the absolute harshest extremes demands cold, unfeeling calculation and the hoarding of every single ounce of energy, is our emotional warmth, the very thing we believe makes us human, actually our greatest biological weakness? Just think about that the next time you open your mouth to speak.